Welcome back to the Dungeon Master's Block, the place where we come to talk about the Dungeon Master, the most important person in the game. With every conversation, we hope to inspire as many as possible to keep on Dungeon Mastering.
And I'm one of your hosts, DM Neal, aka Joe Moniac.
And I'm one of your other hosts, DM Derrick, aka How Not to DM. And today, me hearties, we're talking with Dani from Chile about plundering pop culture.
I've got scurvy. I've got it too. And if you don't know where that's from, shame. Shame on you. And please go watch Muppets Treasure Island right now, because there are only two types of people. There are only two ways that you perfectly play in a Muppet movie. And it is either that you think that you're a Muppet, or you think they're all humans. And that's the only way to play as an actor in a Muppet movie. Because wasn't it? It was Tim Curry thought he was a Muppet. And then, gosh darn it, who played Scrooge?
Michael Caine.
Michael Caine looked at all of them as if they were human. Yes. And it was
God
perfect.
bless us, everyone.
But yes, we will be plundering pop culture. Just the thing that I espouse all the time, because I do not appreciate creating new wheels, because there are many wheels. Some even debate whether or not there are more wheels than doors in the world. And I will just leave you with that contentious thought that you can take to your friend group. You know what? If your D&D party is having too much fun, just throw that out there and just create a battle that didn't need to happen.
For sure, more wheels.
The funniest thing is when it devolves into what is a wheel and what constitutes a door. That's where I get the most joy out of this. If you wanted to discuss the topic of if there are more doors or more wheels in the world, then we have the perfect opportunity for you. Because as we've talked about in a previous episode, we will be having some office hours on our Discord, and we have settled on a day and a time to kick them off. It'll be June 11th from 8 to 9 p.m. Pacific time. Like I said, we're just throwing a day and a time out there. We'll see how well it works for everyone, and then we'll kind of start moving it around. And if people enjoy it, we'll certainly do more. And whatever you want to bring to the proverbial table, we'll talk about.
Our idea for office hours is you can come chat with us about literally anything. You want to talk about a game you are planning. You want to talk about something that's on your mind. You're stuck. You need some help with, players or story or whatever. Or you just want to chat about anything else. We are down to chat with you. So yeah, hit us up on the office hours. Again, that will be June 11th from 8 to 9 p.m. Pacific time. And with that, let's head to the meat.
I'm starving. We ain't had nothing but maggoty bread for 3 stinking days.
Why can't we have some meat?
The flank meat's back on the menu, boys.
So today for the meet, we have another amazing guest, Dani, aka Hofzinser, and semi-professional artist for about a decade, studied physics, interdisciplinary enthusiast, and has a dog named Iggy. Dani, thanks for coming on.
No, thank you for having me, and thank you for mentioning my dog. That's the most important thing you will probably learn about me today.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. I guess we're done then. Yeah.
I would say as we started, I literally heard mine making a lot of noise outside this room. So we'll see if you, listener, can also hear that.
Yeah. So, Dani, tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into tabletop games, and anything else the listeners might find interesting about you.
Yeah. Besides Iggy, well, I am from South America. I live in Chile. I was born here, and I'm 33 years old for the last 4 days now. And
all right. Happy birthday.
Thank you very much. And yeah, I got into tabletop not long ago, really. I have always been on the geeky side of things. So I have some friends that were part of the niche, more regarding board games than tabletop role playing per se. And about a year and a half ago, I was unemployed, and I remember the comment a friend of me made, I don't know, like 8 years ago. And he had said, "Oh, you would be a good dungeon master." I had no idea what that meant at the time.
Right.
But I was unemployed. I had lots of time to think about. And I said, okay, let's go, through a new rabbit hole. And here I am. Now I make podcasts about the thing, and I participate in a couple tables as a player, as a game master. So yeah, that's it. And I would say that the narrative part of it is what drew me into the hobby, because, as you said, I have like a way wider background in art, in general storytelling through other artistic languages. So yeah, this is just like right up my alley. I love it now.
And then the other question that we always get to ask is there anything that you're currently working on, and of course that you can tell us about? We don't want to ruin any NDAs if you have them.
Yes, I am working on a little bit of stuff. Well, first of all, I am finishing the recordings of the second season of Creative Contraband, which is the segment I do for How to Be a Better DM. And I am also working on a system reference document for a small TTRPG tailored specifically for newer players, because I found for people who have never played tabletop, usually it's either D&D, which is, 700 pages of stuff, or it's like it plays something very, very narrative focused like Fate. And that's also an issue because you need some experience to know how to deal with that. It's really not that beginner friendly. So I'm trying to do some stuff so newer players can get into the hobby and make this grow. That's what we all want.
What's the plan on how to publish those? Are you just going to put them up for free, or are these for like specific companies?
No, so far it's all what's the word? One-man band. So I'm doing everything. I am working about some South American scenarios or adventures with another friend who does all the writing, an Argentinian friend, and I do the technical part, the mechanics and stuff. And the first version, the version 0.8 of the system is already published on itch.io. You can find it at hofzinsercl.itch.io.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, we'll make sure to throw that link in the episode notes so people can check it out.
Yeah, thank you.
So this is what brings Argentines and Chileans together is tabletop games.
Yeah. Many things have set us apart through the years, soccer being one of them. And TTRPGs are doing the opposite.
Nice. I like it.
All right, Dani, we like to do a surprise question for all of our guests. And given today's topic about plundering from all of the different sources, I want to know from what show or movie or book or whatever it might be have you most recently stolen or adapted ideas, and kind of tell us a little bit about it.
That's a very good question. Have you watched The Pit?
The Pit. My wife watches it. I have not watched it, but she tells me all about it.
Yeah, go do it. Are you by any chance a Lord of the Rings fan?
I like Lord of the Rings, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's a video in YouTube that compares the Battle of Helm's Deep in the Two Towers with The Pit as a show, and that's very good. But yeah, The Pit would totally be it. I am actually thinking about doing a small group of episodes called Be Like the Pit, and it teaches you stuff. One of the things I talked about in the first episode I ever did for How to Be a Better DM is what's called the Chekhov's gun, which is a device used in theater where if you show a gun in the first act, you have to shoot it in the third act. Otherwise, you leave something there undone, and well, it's like a cousin of other stuff like foreshadowing and stuff. But The Pit does it a lot. Like you can see in the first episodes, there are things happening in the background. In the first episode, in the first 2 or 3 minutes, there's a guy running through stairs totally naked. And you never know if they are going to pull that string at some point in other episodes. And in many cases, they do. And in others, they don't. They have enough stuff to do. So that's one of the things I have been taking for my tables and for the podcast.
Nice. Neal, what about you?
Okay, first off, we do know that The Pit functions the same way as 24, right? Which blew my mind. I was not prepared for that at all. But the one that I guess I was forced. I was I agreed to do this, but I was
Forced.
This is weird. Okay. So I did not go out of my way. I did go out of my way to watch these. And so because of it, I wasn't prepared to remember how much I enjoyed them, but I just watched all three the original You know what? I don't really like the other ones. I'm just going to accept I watched all three because there are no more Indiana Jones movies.
I love it.
And so, because I'm going to do a podcast on the third one, but I was like, I don't want to just watch the third one. I want to watch the first two as well, because I want to refresh my memory to do the comparison. That is just some straight up D&D stuff from start to finish, because I feel like it does really well at illustrating for me, how to do an NPC that used to be an adventurer. Because every scene you have him being just a regular job. He's, in theory, he's just a teacher in a classroom, having to deal with paperwork and having to deal with the day-to-day minutia, which bothers him to his core. And then eventually he's like, or I can just go and fight Nazis and find relics from the past and go adventure again. So it's just a really good way to better understand how to show an NPC that was and could still be someone who adventures.
I like it.
Very interesting.
For me, I'm currently playing a Star Wars 5e game, or running a Star Wars 5e game, so I've been pulling from Star Wars. Luckily, my players have not really been super into The Bad Batch or a couple of others, and so I've been able to pull some ideas and motifs from those shows and put them in amongst all of the general other Star Wars stuff. So, I mean, the whole game is basically just pulling from, a well-known property, but I'm playing it thousands of years in the past, or I set it thousands of years in the past, so it's not during any kind of current canonical stories that are happening. But yeah, it's still been fun to kind of take ideas and weave them in and build suspense and story and that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's been mine.
May I add another surprise question? A quicker one?
Sure.
For you too. What was the last thing you saw, the last show or movie or whatever, that made you think about D&D? And I'm going to put the example. I just rewatched the Lord of the Rings trilogy because of the 25th anniversary. And the whole time I was thinking, you can basically build all the trilogy in terms of successes and failed checks. Let's say they are in the Mines of Moria and Pippin just pushes the helmet and it goes down. That's a failed, dexterity check, let's say. Dexterity saving throw. Or you can also do perception. You can do when they fight against Gollum and they try to see the different stuff. Sam at some point sees crumbs of lembas bread. That can also be a perception check as a success. So you can actually build the whole trilogy. So what was the last show or movie you watched that gave you that feeling oh, I could use this in D&D, or, oh, this is D&D like?
So I was deciding between two answers. So I had not watched and then blasted through all the Jujutsu Kaisen. And it was interesting because watching shows like that to see what their in-universe mechanics are behind their powers. And it's always an interesting thing to try and reverse engineer that kind of concept, because they get to play with that and they get to do more than, you or I would necessarily get to do at the table, because things need to stay balanced and do certain things. But it's always interesting to see what their in-universe setup needs to be, because they need to establish some set of rules, follow them until they have a narrative reason not to, which I feel like is also true about the D&D table. For the most part, I need to follow my own rules of whatever monster I set up until I have a narrative reason why I don't follow those rules. And so, the Dragon Ball Classic would just be because he needs to beat up someone stronger. But with the other anime, expanding and making more nuance on that approach is okay, so this person does it differently, or this person is actually taking powers from other people. So that's why they can manipulate the system in a very different way. And so oftentimes now that I'm watching more anime, now that I'm watching anime at the level that I used to watch it, I'm starting to look at it more in terms of a mechanical system. And especially with that, because at the end, they're literally in something that has a rule set. and then they can actually add additional rules when they get enough points. So that has also been something that was very interesting to me as something to potentially set up inside of a game of like a big tournament. And once you defeat enough, basically the concept is for there, if you defeat enough people, get enough points, you can establish a rule inside of the tournament that everyone has to follow.
Very interesting.
For me, I recently was reading the Silo trilogy. The show on Apple is based off the books. I haven't actually watched the Apple show, but I really like kind of sci-fi books. And so I was diving into that, and I really enjoyed the first book's storytelling and kind of like the different parts and the different points of view. But to me, the part I really liked is like the uncovering of secrets and conspiracy and stuff, because that's a fun part about telling a story, is having a bunch of hidden things, giving your players ways to find that information, but not necessarily telling them, there is a secret to find, just seeing them kind of have to work it out themselves and discover it. So yeah, the investigation or the research or one player latching onto a single idea and drilling down as deep as they can get into the lore that you've created, and that being the pathway for them to discover a whole iceberg of information that you've had waiting for them. That's a lot of fun. So yeah, that was the last thing that I was reading that reminded me, and it made me kind of inspired.
Very good. Thank you for participating in this interview. It was great having you here.
Heck yeah. I mean, the best part about that is it already moves us into the topic at hand. And of course, like if you're listening, we always kind of give a tip off the listener in the intro, but to kind of put a pin on it is basically what the topic of plundering pop culture, because I think there's something really important I want to kind of focus on. And I know I've brought it up before, but like to really hone in for this part of the conversation is the way you were rewatching Lord of the Rings. I think it's a really important thing to discuss about this, is because I mean, for me personally, I can't do that the first time I watch something. It's very difficult for me to watch it with that more analytical eye, because that's not why I watch it for the first time. But when you're going back and rewatching it, hearing the way you were talking about, like, oh, okay, these are the checks that they were making. And like you said, oh, I'm going to do this investigation. Oh, clearly that was a crit fail. I'm the DM. What would I do? Falls down the well, makes a bunch of noise, so on and so forth. I think that's an important thing of like, you got to change your brain for a second when you really want to take pieces out of the media that you're consuming, because it's not the same. I could be happy in almost any movie theater because I will turn that whole side of that brain off, because I've paid so much money to be there that I'm like, I'm going to have a great time, because, like, especially if I'm with the kids, with the wife, paid $5,000 for 3 kernels of popcorn or whatever the price is these days. And typically I'm going to pay up. I'm going to do IMAX, leather seats, the whole thing. So I'm going to have a good time. But if I'm at home and I'm watching, just on my second computer screen, I'm going to change. I'm going to look at it. And I mean, heck, I might have a notebook with me at that point. So, I mean, like, so yeah, I guess that would be like kind of a question I would pose, is like, to what degree have any of us gone to like really, how analytical have we been? Like, have we gone like full notebook, or do you just kind of sit there with that analytical mind?
Ooh, that's a very good question. Since I started the podcast, I have been struggling to turn the analytical part off. So even when I watch some stuff for the first time, which is what happened with The Pit, which I have only watched it once, I also watched the movie The Drama not long ago, and periodically I have to take out my phone and write something down because I know it's important. And sometimes my fiance gives me kind of the look, if I have the brightness way up in the theater, and it's like, come on, you're with that again. But well, I once I explained it, that it's not like I'm just, zoning off, I'm zoning out. I'm just like doing something work related, quote unquote. Yeah, she's very comprehensive about it. But yeah, it is definitely a change of mindset, which is not easy to do. I think that because I studied physics and I have that other part of my brain really trained, I always tend to go to the analytical part. And also because it just helps me understand some stuff. when I can put the work of art into a box and see the structure and try to understand that kind of stuff, I feel like I appreciate it better. And it can also help me understand it a bit better. But it is annoying sometimes. There are other shows or other stuff that I like to watch that I really wish I could turn that part of my brain off, because it takes you out of the immersion, like most definitely. And that does suck. But yeah, it's just something I do whether I like it or not. And I decided to embrace it not long ago.
Yeah, when you have the lens of a storyteller and you have studied story structure and, you know, hero's journey and that kind of stuff enough to the point where everything you consume, you're like, oh yes, I see what they are doing here. It's hard, right? Like you said, you see the layer underneath. You're like, oh yes, the writers made this decision because, you know, it's going to have these consequences. And it can be hard to turn that off. And it is fun when you finally find something that you just are immersed by and you don't have to think about it that way. But I do find myself definitely, as I continue to consume media, I'm more and more analytical about it and less just enjoying it for what it is. But I guess that's just the curse that we bear as dungeon masters.
Have any of you watched Magic live, a magic show at some point in your life?
Yeah, sure. I've seen live magic before. Yeah.
As a magician, when you decide being a magician, you are sacrificing quite forever the enjoyment of surprise, because you will forever always know how it's done. And that forces you to appreciate other stuff. So, I mean, of course, one of the reasons why we perform magic is because we like to give that feeling as a gift to the audience. But you are also forced to appreciate like all the thought that goes behind the thing, all the studies, whether it's neuroscience. Oh, the brain is wired to, if I move both hands, to move the one that started moving first. If both started moving at the same time, the one that's moving the faster. And if both are moving the at the same speed, the one that's moving the wider. So it's either that or all the mechanisms of attention, or how you design, oh, now I can put the deck here. That means that when I need the deck again, I'm going to have it right here. And that's going to be in the shadow of the audience's attention or whatever. And there are all these layers that you have to learn to appreciate, because you just can't be surprised by it anymore. And it's very fulfilling as a magician when you find another magician that can do something that you don't know how it's done. And it's like, oh my God, it's been 3 or 4 years since I have felt this. And that's just so amazing. But yeah, those are definitely like two different worlds of enjoying stuff. And yeah, Magic, I would say, is probably the most extreme example of that. Like you sacrifice one completely and you have to embrace the other one.
Yeah, I can see that parallel.
Yeah, I would say there's a lot of parallels with the idea of being a dungeon master, because it's like every story beat. I mean, for the most part, especially if you're running something pre-written, every story beat is going to be something you're already aware of. And sure, things can change along the way. In the same way, like the second you're adding someone from the audience to your trick, you fundamentally know how that trick's going to go. But at the same time, you put an X factor up on stage. But the idea that you have to find the joy in those other things, of like the joy that they have or the contributions that they can make that you weren't prepared for. And I mean, I'm with you, because there are certain shows that I watch where it has helped, because I do change the way I view it, of giving grace. Because it's like, well, that wasn't perfect, but like, I know why.
Yeah.
I can see the production issues that you dealt with. I can understand the nuance that you are adapting. You know, a lot of people are like, oh, the book was better. And it's like, well, the book was better because it's your imagination that gets to do the legwork, and the show has to fit within the constraints of humans. And so there are just physical and just limitations on what can and can't be presented through the silver or big screen. And the same thing is true when like we do when we run a game. Like there's only so much that we can do when we try and convey all the thoughts and ideas that we have out. But the thing I think is, when you plunder pop culture, like we're talking about, all that extra effort of trying to make it land without it being cheesy, without it being too extra, without it being heavy handed. Once you see them recognize what it is, I don't know though, there's also something about them never recognizing it that is just as joyful for me, of like knowing the whole time that, like, you know, let's say I lifted basically Indiana Jones, or the essence that I was talking about, like the essence of a character that is, you know, wants to go adventure again, but how are they approaching life? And then maybe they never even connect the two. Like they never have the idea that it was, you know, based on Indiana Jones, but I managed to pull that and then make it work.
Did you guys ever lift the curtain for your players, maybe after a session? Because I find this really interesting. I have read about people who at the end of the session talk with their players because, I don't know, they're friends, you know, and they're sharing. And then suddenly the DM says, oh yeah, that was amazing. I mean, I really didn't know what I was going to do with that. And that's very okay. I think I do that sometimes. On the other hand, it's also like you are lifting the curtain a little bit and you're letting them know, you know, this wasn't prepared. Maybe this was. And then it's just what we were talking about. Like they start understanding a little bit more, and that kills something a little bit.
Yeah, it breaks the illusion, right?
Yes.
The immersion.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's it.
I agree with you. I was going to follow up and ask Dani, when you are adapting or pulling ideas from other stuff, how do you obfuscate it? How do you cloak it or hide it well so that it's not obvious that I am pulling from this thing that everybody knows? You know,
you walk into the room, he's wearing a fedora.
Right.
He has a whip on his hip. And his name is Bindiana Bones.
What tips do you have for people just to make sure that it's, you know, if they're trying to keep it just as an inspiration and not like, you know, give it away really easily? What tips do you have?
Yeah, a very quick anecdote before the tip. I once read someone on Reddit that said he designed a whole campaign that was basically Shrek 2. And he pulled it off, and no one realized until the end, because it's not an ogre, it's not a princess. But as you said, Derrick, there's the hero's journey and some structures that we are very used to. So one of the tips that works for me very good is to try to distill it, to decantate it to its core, because at the core, everything, I don't want to say everything is the same, but there are the same principles working. So if you say the hero's journey, you can go to easily a couple hundred different movies. So if you use a hero's journey, it's totally impossible to know which movie you took it from. You can associate to a couple ones, and that's, I mean, that sometimes happens. You are describing, there comes this monster and he's limping and he has a voice like this. And someone says, oh, that's like the villain of AX movie. And that might happen. That's okay. That's really not an issue. And maybe that even helps them make a mental image. But yeah, go to the core. Yesterday, I was in a theater meeting doing some creative stuff, and we were talking about some jokes. And there's one joke where I mean, it's everywhere. It's in SpongeBob, in Zootopia, in many movies, where you're going to meet the Godfather, and then comes a huge bear, and the bear is opening the door for a bigger bear, and you are waiting for this huge thing, and then the huge bear opens the hands, and it's a little mouse, which is the Godfather. But at its core, it's one of the basic principles of comedy, which is break the expectation. And you can break the expectation in a myriad of ways. So go to the core is, I would say, the most important thing you can do. And the second one is maybe try to give it a little something of yourself, a little brand something. Let's say I wanted to take something from Darth Vader. And of course, I'm not in a sci-fi campaign. It's a medieval fantasy, let's say. So I have to do all that adapting. But I, as a person, also like, let's say, cosmic horror. So I want to give that character a little bit of cosmic horror. This is not a cosmic horror thing, but I can maybe give it that feeling of something is watching you at all times, or the feeling of dread because there is really no escape from this. And sometimes that little feeling or that little thing can totally change the nature of the character or whatever you're taking in the player's minds.
The thing I don't want to forget about is that by sheer happenstance or serendipity, one of the two, is that the last 3 episodes have all kind of like lined themselves up, because 2 episodes ago we talked about introducing new players. 1 episode ago we talked about introducing new systems, and this one is talking about plundering pop culture, which I think is really like keys into both of those, because I think it's a great way to do both of those.
Definitely.
Because if you're starting to pull these pop culture pieces, it's a great way to bring in new players, because then it's touch points that they understand to help them. It can also be the same way that you introduce a new system, because one of the things I thought of is like, because I'm very much, want to have veils in front of some of the stuff that I'm pulling. But if it was me trying to introduce a new system, it's entirely possible that the example you brought up was maybe I just run Shrek 2 because the table
That's right.
really loves that movie, and it would be a good way to introduce that system. There may be spaces and places that just having the veil completely gone is super helpful, just because it can help them be more comfortable at the table, which is like the point you brought up as well. And then leaning in super hard, because like you said, if I'm using the hero's journey or that subverting expectations, then sure, if you thought it looked like X from that movie, then I'm probably going to, I usually have my iPad or whatever on the other side of the screen. I'm probably just going to look it up real quick and see if there's other touch points from there that work well with what I have going. Cause yeah, as you were talking about the Darth Vader one, like, it's a lightsaber, but does it have to be? Cause could it just be like the blade just be like some coalesced version of the void itself? Cause you talked about that like eldritch horror, and like, it's like, don't look at the blade, don't look at the blade, don't look at the blade, cause the blade will look back.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait, what? I was like, yeah, if you look at the blade, I'm going to have you like roll or take psychic damage. Like that's what came to mind, like when you were talking about it.
Yeah, 500%. You're totally right. And also you use something very important I had missed. Sometimes especially for newer players, recognizing something they know can be very helpful, but also like fulfilling. They can feel lots more at home if you just put a little bit of something in there. Let's say in Shrek, you have the donkey, and you have an NPC that has just like the same humor, or you can even have that same donkey. I mean, it's just a donkey. You can take it from another universe, and you can you can paraphrase the things the donkey says. And I can totally assure that if those players like Shrek, they're going to love it. So no reason not to do it.
All you need is one druid with a wild hair who just keeps awakening things. Boom. You can have the donkey.
Yeah, totally
fine. Okay. I'm going to do an extreme side tangent, because are there any monsters that, okay. So do you have the books in English, or are they not in English?
No, I have them in Spanish. I have read them in English though, and in PDFs.
Okay, so are there any, this is just a thing that has been plaguing me, and I couldn't get it out of my brain, so I have to ask. Are there any monster names that are like wildly different that like stand out to you?
In English and in Spanish?
Yeah, versus like one of the two.
Oof, that's actually, sadly, no. Sadly, I am so good at going to the side tangents, but this goes back many decades ago. The overdubbing in Spanish from Spain and Latin Spanish is wildly different. And these books, because this is a very small niche, they all come from Spain. And what Spain does is that they translate it 100% literally, usually. So if you have, let's say, a stone that is called the light stone, which works very good in English because it's just 2 syllables. Syllabs? Yeah. And light and stone. In Spanish, they say piedra luminiscencia.
The stone
which
of light.
Sounds awful. Yeah, it sounds awful, but they do it that way. And so, usually the names are exactly the same in meaning, but they just sound way, way worse. And I totally hate it. But But I mean, it's okay. I understand.
Yeah, this makes perfect sense because this is why I had to learn Spanish twice. Because I learned I learned it in school, and then I was like, oh, cool. I don't know who you thought this was for, because nobody talks like this.
Yeah, that's
anywhere that I am at all.
If you ever come here to Chile, well, first let me know, and second, some people say we speak the most difficult Spanish there is. Because we speak very fast and we usually only pronounce half the letters in the words.
That's okay. We have that up here too.
Oh yeah, I know.
Well, that is a bummer because that was another thing that I've seen as well, like finding the same thing from different places and understanding the way that they approach it. But even different shows, like how do they see a show differently and how do they see those characters differently is another way. Cause like you said, it's seeing someone else put their own twist on the same thing that you do understand because you've been connected to that character or that show, but seeing like what they see in it as well is another way to reintroduce certain aspects into your table.
Yeah. I mean, actually, for example, I just thought of it at the movie Devil Wears Prada. Here it's called the demon dresses fashionably or something.
Yeah.
And in Spanish, it sounds pretty good. El diablo viste a la moda.
The demon in style. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the kind of things that the Mexican overdubbing specifically does lots more than the Spanish overdubbing, and that we sadly don't have here in D&D.
That is an interesting one, especially because Prada is a brand.
Yeah.
Okay, no, that's too much of a tangent. Neal will stop. Because I'll ask you questions until the end of time. All right, great. Got it. Has there ever been anything that a player, and this is a general question for all three of us, but has there ever been anything that a player specifically brought to you that you've then introduced into the table? Like, hey, I have this, this weapon, this character, this NPC, anything like that.
I mean, yeah. My friend Ty, last game, not this current game, had a dragonborn teenager who was like a chef and was like knew how to cook stuff really well. But his whole goal was to basically become a teenage mutant ninja turtle. So he didn't pick a tortoise or anything, but he picked a dragonborn. But that was kind of like his goal, was to like find another like other people like him and fight crime together. So I facilitated that. Why not?
That's awesome. So there's I think I brought it up, but there's a webtoon called The Weekly Roll. It's very good. It definitely does a lot of subverting expectations. Like the cleric is all about the necromancy and the paladin is real aggressive about things. And then he has a holy brick on a rope. So that is a weapon that I definitely allowed into the game. And then basically you can basically let the rope out and then use it at 10 foot instead of 5. And then it's a magic item as well, because it was like basically like the holy cornerstone of a chapel that then fell later. And so then he just has a hole in it and then a rope on it and uses it as his holy weapon. So that is one that recently came to be.
That strip's made by a guy named Malcolm from Sweden, and I actually had him on How Not to Dungeon Master. So if you want to hear more about how that strip came to be, then you can check out that episode. Anyway.
Most definitely will I, yeah.
Oh, it's so good. So good.
I actually haven't had many of those experiences, but one of the games I run is a mouse reader where all players are mice. And they have trinkets or small stuff, just like in D&D. And one of the trinkets is a small bucket of lard, which is flammable. And the book doesn't say it's flammable. I didn't really pay attention to it being flammable until one of my players decided that it would be so fun to burn the BBAG, just throwing the lard at the BBAG, and one of the other ones had like a torch and stuff. And and I just thought, Jesus Christ, I totally did not see this one coming, but that's so cool. I mean, I have to allow it. It's like, that's just such a clever way of using your resources. And
was he using it for food at all before that, or was he just holding on to it?
no, I mean it was a one shot.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, he just carried it the whole way. He probably forgot he had it until the end. And yeah, I have run that same adventure a couple more times. It's really well written, and I now tend to hint to the players, like, maybe you could choose the bucket of flowers as a trinket. Like, I mean, I'm just saying,
Great idea.
You can choose whatever you want, but yeah.
I don't know that homework is going to be as effective on this one, because it's literally just watch anything. Okay. We'll do another round of questions. What is one thing that you haven't put into D&D yet that you really want to?
Ooh, that's a very good question. Oof. I mean, there are many things. There are mostly narrative devices. I want to make an adventure or a one-shot that is really built upon breadcrumbs and red herrings, which is something I will talk about in a podcast episode soon. And it's all about solving mysteries. For a long time, I was a huge fan of Sherlock Holmes books, Agatha Christie's books too. And I find it so interesting when you use the breadcrumbs to put clues, but also you have some fake clues, because, in D&D where you can check literally anything, if you are in a realistic place, let's say you are in a bedroom, you are going to find stuff that is not useful, because it's a living room. It's a living scenario. So there should be socks. There should be, I don't know, tissue paper. There should be lamps, whatever. And not everything is going to be useful. And what I want to do specifically is I want to build that living scenario and design a mystery adventure, an investigation adventure that I don't necessarily know the solution of or the ending of. And I know there is one game called Brindlewood Bay, where you are a group of like grandmas investigating stuff, and the mechanics of the game tell you are not supposed to know how it's going to end. That's going to, come up there. If the players come to a reasonable solution, you are supposed to allow it. If it, some stuff happens mechanically with dice and stuff, but that's the whole point. And I am very bad at giving that freedom to my players, like just designing stuff that I don't really know where it's going. So that's one thing I most definitely want to do soon.
Yeah, I've heard really good things about Brindlewood Bay, and I've listened to, I think, at least one actual play, and it sounds like a lot of fun.
Oh, I haven't. I really want to. I have also never played it. I have only read the rule book a little bit, and I have heard very, very good stuff about the game.
What are some pitfalls, or what are some problems that you can run into when you are trying to adapt stuff that you've found elsewhere into the game that you've run into? And maybe what are some ways that you found to work around it?
One of the things is definitely when you do this adapting through improvisation, you can sometimes not adapt it well enough, because in your mind, you're adapting it. So let's say you take Darth Vader and you say you're facing a villain that's all dressed in black and he breathes really loudly. And then 15 minutes later, you talk about a lightsaber. And there has never been a lightsaber in this new character, but because you're just going through the motions, you don't really realize that you made a mistake. And yeah, those things are going to happen, especially for people like me who are not trained in improv. That is going to happen. And ideally, you can just brush it off with the table like, oh, sorry, just don't worry about it. And if they catch the drift, they do it. And that would be one of the things. And the second one is that, especially with more chaotic players, you never know what they are going to catch on. So you may plant these things, these Chekhov guns or these breadcrumbs, and you might have adapted something that has a flow to it or a story to it. Let's say you adapt something from Shrek, And so you are totally prepared to go to the hero's journey, and then they totally subvert it. And you have to somehow take this thing you had adapted that was really built to go in this direction, and you have to take it in the other direction. But I think that not only applies to the things you adapt from outside, but it's a couple of the challenges we face as dungeon masters usually. So I wouldn't say there are many added challenges. It's just about the same. We already deal with a bunch of stuff every day, every game. So yeah, I would encourage everyone to just do it and to go watch some shows, some movies, read some books. I am very sure that you can take stuff from everywhere, totally everywhere. And even if there is nothing translatable in the book you're reading or the movie you're watching, you can also find interesting stuff in what is not translatable. Why is it not translatable? And you can make up new things considering that. It's just like deepening the knowledge in general. And go watch The Pit. That's the homework.
You know what? I'll kind of close this out on this because I think it's something that we haven't touched on, because I think this is a thing that we do regularly and have been doing for a while. There is a very real chance that you will start doing this and it will feel like second nature. There is also a very real chance you will start doing this and it will feel like this is one of the hardest things you've ever done. But just like most things, this is a skill that you can certainly develop. So even if you sit there and watch an entire movie and you only jot down one thing, that's totally fine. That's just where you're starting. And you'll get, just like any other skill, you'll get used to it and you'll start seeing more things the more you work on this skill. Like you'll just be sitting there and thinking, like you were saying, going all the way back to your first example, you'll be sitting there watching Lord of the Rings for another time and thinking, oh, critical fail on investigation. Yeah. Oh, wow. That, pretty high perception check to catch crumbs in the middle of nowhere. And so eventually you'll get there, but there is a very real chance that this will be a little rough to start out. So
100%. Yeah.
But with that though, Danny, where can people go on this World Wide Web to find everything you're doing?
Well, hofzinsercl.itch.io. Hofzinser, you can find it in the description. We don't need to spell it here.
Yep.
And also you can check on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. You can go and put in on the search bar, how to be a better DM. And you're going to find the podcast that I'm working for. The team, they are just great guys. And I also thank them for bringing me here, for giving me this opportunity, for making the podcast, for being here in the interview. I have had such a blast. Wish we had 5 more hours because I know we could be talking about stuff for 5 more hours. But yeah, on your podcast platform of choice, soon also on YouTube, How to Be a Better DM. And my episodes, you will recognize them because they have a different thumbnail. My segment is called Creative Contraband because we smuggle knowledge from other crafts into DMing.
Perfect. And we'll have links in the show notes. And I agree. We could talk for hours and hours in English, and both of us could try as much Spanish as we have. And then who knows? I have to do it every day at work. Listen, I have to do it every day at work, so I can give it a go. But yeah, we will definitely have to have you back on. Or maybe you'll have us on. Who knows? We're going to do more together. I can say that with confidence.
That's great. Yeah, totally. And if I could give one last tip to everyone, and that's, of course, for you too. I'm grabbing from something you said. I suggest everyone to build their inner world. The more you watch, the more you read, the more you know, you will start making connections. And as you very well just said, you will learn to find all these things because you will have more knowledge in general and go and watch some, any fun facts. Everything works. So go build your inner world, consume culture, and that's it. It will come naturally then.
Perfect. We'll let it end right there. And of course, we want to thank Dani again for coming on, spending some time with us, helping us learn about plundering some pop culture, and hopefully we'll be able to get on to his show here before too long. And of course, like we said in the intro, and we'll say it again because maybe you skipped it. Who knows? And I don't know why you'd stay for the outro if you skipped the intro, but if you did, here you go. We'll be having office hours on our Discord on June 11th from 8 to 9 p.m. Pacific time. where you can come and ask us whatever burning D&D question you may have.
You've got
You know what? I'll take that back. Burning TTRPG question.
True. We'll talk about any system. You know us.
I will say, and if you had a burning question that you just feel like you couldn't get to at that time, you can always email us at dungeonmasterblock@gmail.com. And of course, if you see fit, you can always head over to Apple Podcasts, your podcatcher of choice. Leave us a rating and review.
If you just want to chat with us about any other TTRPG topic, you can hit us up on our Discord as well. You can head to bit.ly/DMBanter, and you can find us on there and ask us a question. You can even at us. I really don't mind. If it gets out of hand, we'll say something. But for now, hit us up. Ask us your burning D&D questions or TTRPG questions there. The Dungeon Masters Block is a proud member of the Block Party Podcast. Check out other shows like Dungeons & Dragons and Daughters, The Titans of Altera, The Bad Venture Club, and Knocked Prone, and How Not to DM, and more.
But as always, thanks for listening to the Dungeon Masters Block, the place where we come to talk about the Dungeon Master, the most important person in the game, the only person capable of playing gods,
killing characters,
and lowering the egos of everyone else at the table. I'm DM Neal. Good night and good luck.
I'm DM Derrick, here to tell you, keep on dungeon mastering.
It's not inspiration, it's not wisdom, and it's bad advice.
Just do a bad job at it. Whatever you take, just take the first letter of 2 words and just swap it and just call it good. Gady Laga. It's a bard. Done. I'm out.